The following is a Barrett Sports Media production. There are two sides to the broadcast industry: content creators and moneymakers. This podcast is for that second group: sellers, buyers, managers, anyone with an interest in business. You're all welcome here. This is Seller to Seller. Now, here's your host, Jeff Cabes.
John Sheftic is the market manager for Dick Broadcasting in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. John's been in his current position now almost 5 years. He's been a market manager before with Cumulus, Double O Radio, Panama City, Next Media, and was a DOS for Beasley Media and Curtis Media before coming to this current position with Dick Broadcasting. I met John in Boise, Idaho, where he spent 13 years with Clear Channel, as they were then known. Let's get to Dick Broadcasting. Tell me about the organizational structure that you're under there, a number of stations, in the total group, in your cluster, and just the organization, so we can get a feel for it, John, as we move into the budgeting topic.
My boss is Dick Harlow. The company's actually owned by Alan Dick. And
Okay.
Alan was an old broadcaster, had legendary stations in Knoxville and Nashville, and had sold those radio stations for some crazy number and was out of the business. They kept the Greensboro stations, and it was kind of like, keeping your feet in it. His son, Taylor, was old enough and educated enough to decide he wanted to get in the business. So they decided that, what do? They're broadcasters, and they bought New Bern, they bought this cluster, and they bought Savannah. We have a total of 18 radio stations.
Oh.
Then they were like, now we got to find guys that know how to turn this stuff around and get the ball rolling. And I knew Dick from the old Clear Channel days. And the next thing you know, he's like, I hear you got a place down there in Myrtle Beach. You want to go back down there? Because I'd actually run this cluster before. I ran it for Next Media. I still had, I had a home here, just packed up my stuff, put it in the car, came back down, started, run the radio station. I mean, quite frankly, they allow us to run our company. We have a lot of contact with Dick. I got about a 20-minute ride to work every day, and that's where we talk and discuss. But the officers of the company, all that, are in Greensboro, which from my market's about 3 hours away.
How many stations in your cluster there in Myrtle Beach?
I've got 5 here.
Okay.
I've got, I've got everything from, our monster is the news talk, and I have classic rock, classic country. I've got kind of a 90s based rock station, and I also have a CHR. CHR is the most difficult to sell because there are not a lot of young folk clubs, that kind of thing here. By the same token, the folks retiring here by the droves, man, they're coming here. Real estate is insane. Everybody and their dog is from the Northeast, and they're moving here. That is why radio still works.
Let me get to this other monster is prepping for budget. Let's talk about the process for you, John, in the Dick Broadcasting structure when the 2023 budget is due. What's that process like for you as the market manager?
Well, I'm fortunate enough to have been here long enough to have history here, which helps. But essentially, we've got a giant spreadsheet with anything you'd want to know about your radio station. We try to put as much research with rates and revenues and everything you'd need to take a look at. My process is the same as has been forever. I print every piece of business that had been on this radio station for the year. I take 2 highlighters. I take the highlighter that is coming. I highlight the guys that are not on the air that are coming back, and highlight the ones that are never coming back. And I take that number and I total it all up. If we feel ballparkish that we want to be around $4 million, and I've gone through every account on the air and I feel like, okay, I can come up with $3 million. Well, now we have to figure out the strategy and the plan to come up with everything else to make up that, whether it be, events, new business, digital. But I think that's a relatively simple process to know. At the end, I have a good feeling that I know that, let's just say that I have $3 million that, no matter what happens, that's what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, we build around that as to how we're going to make up the rest of it. I get the same report from salespeople and ask them to cross out the folks that they think are not coming back. And I compare the two of those, and I can have this number. So, I'm fortunate in that I've got big radio stations, and we sign a lot of annual business. We work with people like Vantage. By the same token, about 70% of our business is local direct business.
Okay.
And so you know where that's going.
Yeah.
I mean? I could sit in front of that car dealer and go, okay, are you on or off next year? Yeah, we're good. We got cars in, And
Sure.
there are those people too that you're there and you're going, okay, you were a $5,000 a month account with us for years. Now you're at zero because you have no cars. You're getting cars again. Now you're starting to see some of those people come back into the scene. But, really for me, it's all about that figuring out what is solid and where it needs to come from. Then we get into rates, average rates. If we want to do, another $500,000 on a radio station that's already packed to the gills, what rates do we need to plug in to make sure that we can get to that point?
Gotcha. Now, what about, John, how do you factor in, and maybe corporate does, when they're grinding the national research and the regional research that says, here's the kind of growth you should expect, radio national spot market, the local market for Myrtle Beach area. So this percentage increase over last year is what we think, the market's going to produce. How is that handled per se? Because that's kind of a separate number that sometimes is handed down to us, right? Hey, you got to do at least 4% more, my man.
Compass projects to 5% growth. I believe with what I have, I look at that, Jeff, but I put my whole package together and go, here it is. And if it doesn't match that, we'll have that discussion. We'll try to figure something out. Sometimes they don't. But to be honest with you, I've been in a situation here. We own the market. We are far greater than Compass Media saying 5. I'm probably going to budget somewhere around 7 or 8%.
Wow.
Yeah, I get people like that, but I have reasons. I have really specific reasons to think it's going to do that. And one is, I'm telling you, the question you have to everyone you meet is, where are you from? I always say there are 8 people that are from Myrtle Beach. The rest of them,
yeah, they're on the air. Yeah. What about the salespeople, John? How do they participate in this process? Are they given a number to hit, or do they come up with a number from their perspective that they can hit?
I ask them to give me their number. Their number is what I need, but I have a number already I need. For example, if you're a sales guy for me, say on our news talk, WRNN, that 20% of that business last year on WRNN is you. You're the man on that thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a formula and a sheet with all your accounts that shows where you need to be to do 20% of that bigger number. If you did 20 last year, I'm asking you for a larger number, but I don't really need you to do any more than that 20%. If it is 15%, I want it to be because everything else was exploding around it. Because sometimes you have to go down, especially in 2020. I had guys in here that, they were losing $5,000 a month accounts that the doors were shut. Well, hard to make up a car dealer with a sandwich shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there's a lot of realism there. Now, even the month-to-month stuff, John, and sometimes the quarterly stuff where in sales we're constantly being asked, how much will you do next month? How much do you got in your pipeline? How much will you do this quarter? And that game kind of goes all year. What's the process like for you with your sales staff on projections?
I start out by when we get together and we decide, okay, Jeff's going to do $1 million this year. Once I have agreed to all of that, to me, that's set in stone. I do not change it. I've worked for guys that you reevaluate quarterly and do it, and I do not do that. Here's your number. That's what I'm asking you for. If you can do that number, I'll pay you a bonus every month. So it is what it is, and I lay that in stone for them. We talk daily. I have weekly one-on-ones. We still do a Tuesday Zoom call, but I see these people.
When the salespeople around the country, really, John, and you've worked in different markets, how do you think a salesperson should go about their own projection, right? Should they go with the 2-marker system, the 2-color system, who's coming back, who's not? How much increase can I get out of somebody? What percentage increase in digital could I have? What do you think they should do?
Well, those are the discussions we're having in one-on-one sales meetings too. I try to find those things that you're all about. If you're not a dog person and we're doing our Poocha Mania event, you may sell a couple of booths to it because you want to make that money, and we're asking you to sell 3 booths. But if you're the guy that has, 3 dogs and all the contacts, and quite frankly, I'm leaning on you, going, come on, man. I know you could do 12 booths there, but I try to find those strengths and weaknesses and push them in that direction. We try to incentivize and reward you with things that you're into too. They're all on commission. So if there's something that they're excited about and they have a project or an idea, I'll tell you what we're doing this year. I had a guy come to me and say, I saw in the trades that someone had done a haunted car wash, and she's got close relationship with one of the guys that owns a bunch of car washes here. I said to her, if you can make this happen, if we do $25,000 with this, it's worth another $500 to you plus the commissions. She went out and put that whole thing together. The other folks sell it, so it helps her to want to champion, that cause and help them too. I got a guy here that is absolutely, a sports nut. We're the flagship for CCU football.
All right, on fire.
This guy is nuts about it. So, he goes out and sells, and I've got other folks that, if we have everybody to the football game, they don't really know anything going on the field. So
sure.
They sell some if their client goes, I love the program, but they're not that guy that's in everybody's face that just thinks you're crazy if you're not involved with it. So, when it comes down to budgeting, we also have those discussions about the projects that you want to be involved in and possibly grow.
So what about the income piece, John? The salesperson, well, of course you want to make more money. So you want to make more money, we're going to have to do more sales. And some people, hey, they've been in the business for X amount of years, and they're like, well, I'm going to have to work how much harder or sell this kind of an event. I don't want to go down there to the concert festival or whatever. You got to talk that through and try to push their buttons to growth. Is that what you're always looking for? I get it, but how about some growth?
Honestly, not always. I have people too that you got, when they leave you. I'm pretty confident, Jeff, when you left those radio stations up there business went away.
Some.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll look at somebody and go, okay, you're doing a big number. And if they were to leave you, that number would not be nearly as big because of the relationships and that sort of thing. They're not going to call on, 20 people a day. But if they're working and they're doing what it takes to maintain that, I think we don't have enough conversation on maintaining business. Every place you've ever new business. How much new business do you have? Well, that's great that you brought in 10 grand in new business, but it's not so great if you lost 30 grand because you weren't paying attention to the guys with the money.
Dick Broadcasting, 18 station group, competing alongside the Cumuluses, right? The Odysseys, just go down the list of the iHearts, the big groups, and to the digital piece, John, okay, to the digital piece about how you guys are organized that way and what's been that strategy, what's worked for you, and what are you still trying to grow into?
We are fortunate that we have our folks in Greensboro. We don't third party. You want a website? We got people up there build websites.
Okay.
You need artwork, you need video. We have people that do all that stuff.
In-house, in other words.
Yeah. We email the guys up there, hey, like to set up a meeting for Dietrich's Car Wash on, October 15th. This is what we're needing. We have a conversation. They send somebody down here and you're with the client. They know the people that work for us. They have relationships with their project manager. To be honest with you, everybody likes coming to Myrtle, so it's like, love to do a face-to-face down there.
Right.
We really, our goal with our digital is to really be that arm and that partner with the mid to smaller business. I mean, we were doing a crazy number with Venus Swimwear out of Jacksonville. We have some of those big accounts too. But at the end of the day, you have businesses that are specialized businesses that many of them work with specialized, advertising agencies. My boss, when my boss calls, hey man, I get all these things on my phone, come golf Myrtle Beach. Yeah, I know those people, and they're like, well, I mean, they use a very specific golf related agency that's what they do all over the country, is they know how to sell these packages and contact you. We're looking for the people, that, I have a cleaning company guy that, I mean, he does a big number. They do carpets and restoration and, house floods and they do a big number, but really it's a mom and pop business and they need help and they're inundated by people that promise them all this kind of help. And sometimes they get drawn in. And the next thing, you're dealing with folks that are out of, who knows where. They're not receptive. They're not nimble. They're not fast. And that's where people, I mean, I've got a guy that we manage. We have a huge digital street sign. One of our guys gets on the computer and puts all of his, whatever he's doing up there. We design the logos, the art, we put it all on, blah, blah, blah. But, we also work with people that, local brew pub that has an event that wants us to manage their Facebook and their email blasts. And, they're not going to spend $10 million, but,
No, but they're going to keep it with the person they trust, right? Yeah. Right there. Hey, do my radio. You do that. You'll do that. Great. That takes it off my plate because I already trust you. Next case. Let me ask you this, John. When it comes to what we now see and what you're seeing, and we start looking at clients who say, you know what, I'm good. I got this guy doing my Google. I got this girl over here that does my Facebook ads. We're buying cost per clicks. I don't think I need over-the-air radio spots, right? So how is that evolution going for you? What are you seeing with those types of clients or not?
Well, this is what I know. This is me personally. This is what I know, and I say it to everybody. And
sure.
I've had yet to be proved wrong. It's just like print. If you don't have brand, you can be all over the internet, and you're just a click through, swipe through. You get stuff on your phone. It's like, what is that, man? It's off your phone, right?
Who are you, in other words?
Yeah. And our pitch to most of these small businesses is it's the least expensive, best way to brand yourself is still radio. Brand yourself in the radio, and then you start to move into the digital space where you're sending email, you have Facebook ads. All of a sudden, you've got a brand. When that thing pops up on your phone or your Facebook, you've heard of it. You'll click on it. We're also very lucky here. We have a lot of old people moving here. They still listen to the radio. Radio works here. I can't speak for these other markets, but I am telling you, radio still works here. And when somebody says, I'm going to brand myself or I'm going to use Facebook, and we run into that, it's usually short term. They'll cancel for 90 days, plow money into some digital piece, and then they realize that it wasn't the panacea. It was like, well, what happened? Well, I don't care what anybody says. Radio owns the car. And you're in there driving down the road and
sure.
You're listening to Wave 104. And you probably should get that front end aligned or whatever. And you're kind of, and you're in that car and you're sitting at home at night and, on your phone or whatever. And you start to get these ads. It just moves the needle for them. I think it is a beautiful marriage and combination. And we have found that actually we've had phenomenal growth in both areas.
Excellent.
Primarily because I think we do a pretty good job doing it. But the other part of that is when you're in a market like this where you have a lot of retirement folks, I'm telling you, we put on a golf tournament every year with Wave 104. It sells out in like 2 days. It is a massive party. We generate huge amounts of money for charities. But people know, man, they hear it on the radio and they're there.
Well, that's tremendous, man. It's so good to talk to you. And I guess we'll all have to get down to Myrtle Beach. We know who we can hit for some golf. There's, what'd you say? How many courses around the Myrtle Beach area?
There's over 100.
Okay.
Oh, I'm surrounded. It's to the point now where when somebody says, "Hey, we're going to go up here in North Myrtle and play," and you're like, "Oh man, that's like a 30-minute drive." It's like
I got to pass 10 courses to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm playing this weekend. I am 10 minutes from the course. We will play. We'll tee off at 8. I'll be done at 1. I'll be home, showered, having lunch, by 2 o'clock.
You can find more information on John Sheftic there on LinkedIn. I'm sure they'll get that and review, subscribe to this, pass it along. It's how we grow it. Email me, jeffcase54@gmail.com with interview requests. Check barrettsportsmedia.com for weekly sales columns and past pods. I will talk to all of you next week.
Thank you for listening to Seller to Seller with Jeff Caves. Each episode is available on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, the iHeart app, and most podcasting platforms. To stay in touch with Jeff, follow him on Twitter @JeffCaves and read his sales columns on barrettsportsmedia.com.